Morning, everybody. Ann and I are back here. Another beautiful morning, Columbus, Ohio. We got a little dusting of snow. Second day in a row. She's really enjoying her first snow. Where I talk about mental health being spiritual health. And I'm not a therapist or a doctor or anything, but I've struggled with anxiety and depression and suicide, and I've got myself out of it. Of course, I had some therapy and some medications, but there's something else that I learned: how to train my brain to be happy, and I can help you too. And that's why I help others be the best version of themselves through coaching. So if you've tried therapy and medications and still don't feel happy, I can help you feel happy, because, as someone told me, nothing is worth being unhappy. Nothing. And I know you can be happy. And I believe mental health is spiritual health. It's all related: physical, mental, spiritual. Okay, today we're going to be talking about working for an audience of one. We're going to be in Colossians, Paul's letter to the church in Colossus, chapter 1, verse 17, 23, and 24. Okay? And the key verse here, Colossians chapter 3, verse 17, 23, and 24. Key verse 23. Paul writes, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord." Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord. So thanks for joining my channel. And before we get started here, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Thank you. All right. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of Kyle Speller. He is the public address announcer for the Denver Nuggets. He's really good. Really good. He gets people fired up, home crowd. And he's so good that they even had him do the 2022 NBA All-Star game. That's how good he is. And he would, he just knows how to fire up the crowd, and he has an awesome, awesome voice. Now, if you've ever watched a home Nuggets game on TV, or if you're from Denver and been there, you know what I'm talking about. But what he says is, "I know how to feel the crowd and kind of set that home court atmosphere." But still, his voice, which he also uses to do TV and radio commercials, that's how good it is to glorify God. Speller says he is just doing everything for an audience of one. He does everything for an audience of one. So whatever he's doing it to glorify God. And the Apostle Paul stressed a similar attitude and work ethic to the Colossian church. And I think because their members had started doubting Christ's divinity and sovereignty and letting that seep into their practical lives. So that's why Paul wrote, "Whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord." Do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. So Speller not only uses his voice that everybody loves as a public address announcer and to do TV and radio commercials, he's also the team chaplain. I don't know if you knew that. So he's a chaplain for the Denver Nuggets as well. And that's what he says. Speller goes on to say, that's kind of my purpose here. That's his purpose, to be the team captain. And the announcing, he says, is just icing on the cake. So, our own work for God, we can think of it as being for an audience of one and not human masters. Now, this is I'll be honest, this is a difficult topic. And I got this one from the Our Daily Bread booklet. You can get one too at ourdailybread.com. The reason I say it's difficult is I didn't necessarily do that when I worked. And I put in a lot of work when I worked for various corporations. Here, and I'm going to go into that because here are the questions today. What's the key factor in your work ethic? Question 1, what's the key factor in your work ethic? Question 2, how would working as for God change your perspective? How would working as for God change your perspective? Okay, for me, what's the key factor in your work ethic? Key factor in my work ethic was, well, there were two, actually. One was me as a person. I tend to be a perfectionist, and I don't want to make a mistake. I never want to make a mistake. In fact, that's probably a little bit from my upbringing, but I never wanted to be wrong. And everything had to be perfect and correct and right. Number one, that was me. And number two, I realized, well, when I have a job, I'm getting paid. My livelihood depends on doing well for my employer. So whoever I'm employed by, I wanted to do as good of a job, bring as much value to the corporation as possible. And there's two ways to think about that. One, do as much as you can. Work as hard as you can, as long as you can, accomplish as much as possible for the company. And number two, motivate others to do the same thing. So when you can multiply that work ethic and attitude and ability to get more things done to more people, that's even better for the company, right? So those were the key factors in my work ethic. My own personal perfectionism and knowing that I'm being employed by a company, so whatever I can do to make the company more successful, I would do, whether it was for myself or to motivate others. So that was it. Those are the key factors in my work ethic. Now, I don't know what my work would have looked like if I would have thought about working for an audience of one. Maybe it would have been similar, right? God is perfect. I'm a perfectionist. Maybe I would have worked that way. Looking back on it, it's hard to imagine how or what I would have done in that instance. Because how would working as for God change your perspective? How would working as for God change your perspective? And I'm not sure my perspective would have changed much. And I don't know if that's correct or not, to be honest with you. Um, it's an interesting, this is an interesting topic to discuss. And I know when you work for God, and you think about what he did for us and his grace and mercy for us, I mean, I think you would definitely, you're obviously trying to do your best, but when you're also working with other people, I think you would be kind and gracious and merciful when working with them, right? You would just have a great, positive, almost loving attitude, toward your coworkers, and grateful that you would have work to do. I think that's how it would have looked for me, and it would have changed my perspective slightly. How about you guys? I'm really curious. How do you think about working for an audience of one? So, what's the key factor in your current work ethic? Number one, and then how would working as for God change your perspective? So, what's the key factor in your current work ethic? And then how would working as for God change your perspective? Please put your answers in the comments. I'd really, really like to know what you think, because I'd like to learn something. And we can all learn something and be encouraged by each other. So please put your answers in the comments. I'd really appreciate it, especially on this one. Right, Annie? Annie, where are you? There she goes. I don't know what she's doing. It's probably weeds. Yeah, there she is. Annie, come on. All right, guys. I appreciate you joining again. If you like this video, please like it. And please put your answers in the comments for this one. I'm really curious. Okay? And remember, when you go to work today, think about this. What Paul wrote, Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord. All right? Have a good day at work. It's Friday. Enjoy it. Last day of the week. We'll see you tomorrow morning, Saturday morning. Have a good one. Peace.